folks, it's your boy Charles Younger here along with Professor G. Mark Gray. How are we doing today, good sir?
I'm chilling, man. You know, spring practice is in the air. The Final Four is here. I mean, if you a college sports fan, this is the best time to be alive. And glad to be hanging out with my boy here. And, you know, let's get right down to it, Chuck, because I think there's this notion, and those of us in the area have been living through, is Maryland a football school or a basketball school? And I'm one of those people that's old enough, as the Gray will attest to, where I can remember they were relevant in both sports at the same time. You know, during the latter days of Lefty Driesell with the basketball program and Bobby Ross with the football program, they were able to peacefully coexist in the ACC. Somehow, it morphed into a battle of wills. And now I'm thinking that we both understand, or the school now understands, that you don't have to be dominant in one sport. You can have a well-rounded program. But the question is, can Maryland's football program get beyond being noted for winning games and their coach being poured mayonnaise on him? We got to get the mayonnaise out of the program, dog. I mean, no disrespect to the fine people at Duke's Mayonnaise, but I don't want to see my coach any longer celebrating mayonnaise baths. I saw Indiana go from being a basketball school last year, Chuck. You know, we always think about French Lick, Indiana, and Larry Bird, the greatness of Bobby Ice. Well, Coach Cignetti came in and redefined and reestablished that you could have at a traditional basketball school a football power. And to me, what Indiana did last year has put the Terp program on blast. I don't know how you feel about it, but to me, if Indiana can get to the college football playoffs, why can't Maryland?
I hear you, bro, because, like, look at Coach from Indiana, who came from a lower-level powerhouse in James Madison, who took that school from a nothing school when it comes to football to a national power in the FCS division of college football. Now, Coach Loxley has a pedigree coming from University of Alabama under the esteemed Coach Nick Saban, bringing in his style of offense. He ran an offense when Alabama was dominating everywhere. So what I'm thinking is, Coach Loxley has been. I'll give him 2 years of his term here where you can say that's a wash. One was COVID, which kind of like everyone was going through that. So, you know, I give that a wash. And last year when he lost his quarterback, Talia Tagovailoa, his eligibility was up. The replacement at quarterback is going to be the key for this team moving forward to becoming and down the line down. It's a quarterback league in high school, college, and the pros. It's a quarterback game. So if you have that position on lock, you can find ways to fill around and make yourself look like a legit contender in what I consider the best football conference in the United States of America here, and that is the Big Ten Conference.
Well, it's going to take more than just a quarterback or the successful, consistency from that position that Maryland has been longing for quite some time. So I will grant you that. But quarterback is just one of the many places that they've got to get better. I mean, let's be real for a second. You're talking about Ohio State wins national championship. There's the benchmark that you define your program by. Speed all over the place. Okay, skill positions and running backs. And they may have been the most physical team in the country as well. So when I look at Maryland, yeah, you may have an outstanding quarterback. I could make a compelling argument that Talia, to his brother, had the qualities or the skill set to be successful. Something was missing. Now, he was injured, you know, O-line had problems. Defense doesn't get enough stops in clutch situations. I watched a 1AA, FCS coach turn a Big Ten plus however many it is now program into a success. And to me, Maryland has a lot of energy from the basketball hire of Buzz Williams. You had two teams that went to the Sweet 16 in a basketball hotbed area, the energy is here. And we're in a unique moment in time. And I think you bring up a really good point about Loxley, and the addition of Pep Hamilton. And I think we have to start right there because Pep's won the Natty while at Michigan under Harbaugh. I know Maryland's recruiting of Maryland players will get better because Pep knows how to recruit Maryland players. He did it in Michigan, okay? The great players that were coming out at that time from Maryland were going to Michigan because they felt that they could, it's a shorter ride than most places. You can get back to see your kid in 5-6 hours, right? Driving over there, a little bit cheaper than flying and a lot more safer, as we all know. So I'm just looking at the blueprint. And I'm saying to myself, I never thought I would be in this position where I'd be wishing I was where Indiana's football programming is. I mean, and I had a couple sources tell me earlier, with the stability now in the athletic department. I mean, I know that as we record this, there still a national search going on, but there just seems to be a foundation there. And I just think the time is now. I think some patience may be running out with some people, but the moral to the story is for a lot of blue blood programs or think they are blue blood programs, no disrespect to Indiana, they are the benchmark of what you do to turn things around. And barring something like that, I think you'd have to say it'll be a disappointing season if Maryland doesn't make the college football playoffs. One thing to go to a bowl game these days, that's like going to the NIT in basketball. You weren't invited to the real party, but you can hang out at the club.
Yeah, I hear you about that, but you have a little more experience than I do. But when it comes to like a lot of these great powerhouse teams, they were able to keep their great talent here. They don't let them go. Like the best players in the South aren't going out west or out up north. They're staying there in the SEC. Same with Texas. They're trying to keep their best players there. The DC area has a legit powerhouse high school football programs around the area. Now I was looking at our recruiting class, which I saw is 28th overall, which I think is pretty impressive for a Maryland squad that brings in you have, like I said, the number one recruit we had coming in was Malik Washington, a 4-star recruit out of Archbishop Spalding out of Severn.
Right.
That kid at 6'4", 215, 18 years old, he's going to fill it out. He's going to get bigger, stronger. He could be that guy that's like, okay, next recruit see he's going there, maybe I should go there. Or you have another Jalen Gilchrist, another 4-star recruit out of Salem, Virginia. I mean, it's obviously Virginia Beach, Salem High School, Virginia Beach. Excuse me, not Salem, Virginia. Two different worlds. Don't get those two places confused. But
big difference between Tidewater and Salem. Yes.
The 757 has also been a historically deep football powerhouse. You had guys coming out of that area like the Vick brothers. You had, Ronald Curry. You had, you had AI who played football back down there. So you had some guys who could ball playing football down there. And another 4-star recruit. They had 4 4-stars coming in the area, and they're all from the DC and Maryland, Virginia area, the DMV.
Well, something to your point, Maryland at its heyday has always, had a significant amount of big time contributors from the state of Maryland. And I just think about guys like one of the good guys that we lost this year, Eric Holder, wide receiver. That was a Maryland guy. Byron Jeffrey, Maryland guy. Willie Joyner, Maryland guy. Ziz Raouf, Maryland guy. I mean, you fill in the blanks and but things have changed. Okay, the landscape has changed, and the question is, quite frankly, it's business now. And while I'm a big proponent of student athletes cashing in on their net worth, and we'll have an NIL conversation a little bit later on down the line, but there's no regulation of it to the extent that it's a wild, wild west as far as recruiting and holding on to your players. And so we living in lightning in a bottle times, Chuck. You know what I'm saying? It's like you want to get a group of players together, catch lightning in a bottle, and make a run. Because chances are the team is not going to be the same team that it was at the end of the previous season when we start next year. And so it's going to take some ingenuity. Now, I will say this. This is the thing that I like about the new hires to Maryland staff. They know Maryland. They know how to lock some doors. They have great relationships. I mean, you know, there used to be this pipeline of student athletes leaving from Maryland High School, Wise High School, pretty affluent neighborhood. You know, a lot of good players came out there, but they won there with Florida State. I remember when Joe Hayden and the boys were coming out of Friendly High School, and they made their way to University of Florida. So when you have a Pep and perhaps a Loxley, you can now lock the interests of the recruits in the state at the main state school. Question is, are you going to win? Are you going to be able to afford to keep them with NIL money? And will you make the college football playoffs? Because that's it. I'm sorry. Everybody always talk, the bowl games are reward and all that. It's not the show. You know what I'm saying, Chuck? If you don't make the show, if you're not in the tournament, you know, it's like the bowl games are now the NIT of football. You don't really want to play on bowl week. You want to play in the show. And Maryland has to get to the show or go in a different direction. And I still believe that the brain trust at Maryland can make it work there. Now,
I want to pick your brain though about the brain trust in Maryland, bringing in Pep Hamilton. We talked about him a little bit off air, how his career is like could be him as an offensive coordinator could be help them bring in the offensive talent they need to put up big numbers and compete against your Ohio States, your Penn States, your high flying offenses out West Coast with Oregon and Washington. So what can you tell people about Pep, his history as a coordinator, as a coach, and him actually also being a local player? I mean, he played at Howard, correct?
Yeah, he played at Howard. He played behind Jay Walker. All right, let's be clear about that. And he was also the first coach of, I guess the second coach of the Defenders here in
the
DC.
DC Defenders.
Yes,
Shields up, baby.
XFL. Yes. So
yes,
I will say this: when you're around people like the Harbaughs, and I'm fortunate enough that during some my days broadcasting, I covered a FCS playoff game at Western Kentucky where his dad was head coach and Jim was OC. So you have a wealth of knowledge that Pep has acquired from guys like Steve Wilson, who played in the NFL and coached him at Howard. Pep is an amazingly intelligent and brilliant mind. He is truly, truly a football savant. I mean, you want to go to somebody's camp and learn some concepts for, developing offensive strategies and developing offensive players. I mean, he did have a little something to do with a guy by the name of Andrew Luck, who had a pretty solid career in terms of his development.
He did all right for himself.
He did pretty good. Yeah. And he was groomed at some level by Pep. Pep's a quarterback. He speaks the quarterback position. He understands the offensive game, but most importantly, he's very intelligent and people rally behind him. They like his vibe, and that's as much a part of coaching these days as winning games. You got to be able to create a vibe, a feeling of confidence when you are talking to somebody on the recruiting trail. Pep's that guy. So when you start talking about, very strong, educated man, incredibly ingenious with the way that he comes up with offensive game plans and stuff like that, in-game adjustments, that right there says a lot about Mike Loxley, all right, bringing him in as his OC. Because in many respects, you could see him as a guy that could be in the head chair somewhere someday. So Pep's, that was one of the best assistant coaching hires in America this offseason. And I really think you can talk all about the recruiting class and the upgrades that are coming and the new athletic director, what have you. To me, the single most significant move that the football program did last year was bring in Pep Hamilton. I think that changes the direction of the program, and I think he's good for 2 or 3 wins a year. I really do. So, Maryland was bowl eligible. You got to start thinking about 9 wins to be considered for the college football show. And we on our podcast will refer to it as the show. It is the show. I mean, I know we got a lot of people that say that they're things of the show, but we saw last year that the college football playoffs are the show. Maryland has everything in place to make a run. The problem is the rivalry games. Got to figure out a way to beat Penn State. I mean, you got that plush Maryland degree on your mantle. How sick are you of losing to Penn State and James Franklin, who many thought was going to be the head coach at Maryland years back?
Well, it's luckily for us this year, we don't have to face them because the conference is so large. You're not going to be able to play everybody like you normally would. But this is a year that Maryland can make a run because if you look at the schedule, starting off with FAU, then we follow up with Southern Illinois, Towson, Wisconsin, Washington, Nebraska, UCLA, which is interesting because we have a transfer from UCLA and Justin Martin, who's going to probably be our starting quarterback heading into this season. And I'm going to come back to him in a minute or two. Speaking of Indiana, we have the huge matchup against Indiana, and that is homecoming. So that's going to be a game where we're looking at it's like, oh, that they were the surprise team last year. If we can switch places with them, and that game showed them we are the up-and-coming team, it's going to be good. Then you got Rutgers, Illinois, Michigan, and Michigan State. So we don't have the heavy hitters in the Big Ten in our schedule here. We don't know Ohio State, no Penn State this year. So that
don't we have to go to USC?
No, we do not have to go to USC this year. Only California team we're playing is UCLA at home at SECU Stadium, College Park, homecoming, November 1st. That is a game where we should make an appearance at that game when it comes to getting some of that turtle pride, that fear, the turtle pride on homecoming against, like I said, the other up and coming school in the Big Ten.
Well, I'll say this. I know, and in the interest of full disclosure, I am a professor still on campus in the fall semester, and the fact that those kids were able to come out on the field and enjoy the celebration from homecoming has now made that a thing. Mm. It will be interesting to see if UCLA can handle, Terp Nation on homecoming. So the moral to the story is, until further notice, Maryland scheduled California teams for homecoming. You're going to be pumped, hyped, and all of that for the game, and they will have had to travel 3,000 miles. Mm. What happens if some industrious co-eds decide that they're going to find where the UCLA hotel is on Route 1 and start bringing a mariachi band out there, or better yet, a Chuck Brown and the Soul Searchers mix?
Well,
and for those of y'all around the country, that's go-go. We play that big in our neighborhood.
Well, the funny thing is that the hotel that most players should stay at is right next to Greek Row, so there might be a little distraction happening right there. But I want to go back to Pep Hamilton, and I did get a chance to talk to Justin Martin about Pep Hamilton and his impression about him coming in and take over the team. And this is Justin Martin, quarterback for the Maryland Terrapins.
He brings a great development mind, especially for young quarterbacks or quarterbacks without, a lot of experience. He knows what he's doing. He's had 2 Rookie of the Year quarterbacks, and, he's put up numbers in the league. So, we all have faith and, trust in his system, and, we're trusting in the process.
Yeah, well, when one of your understudies, I think he was there for a little while with Jalen Hurts too, right? So
yes.
when you can show a guy that you work with and he won the Super Bowl, I mean, with all due respect to most of the conference coaches, not named like Chip Kelly, I mean, and
don't
nobody,
like
and
don't get me started about Chip
Harbaugh
Kelly
in the Big Ten anymore. So I mean, when you think about it, that gives you pedigree, but it's both a blessing and a curse, if you ask me. First off, it's a blessing because we'll get talented young prospects like that who will want to come to Maryland and believe that this is the next step towards the evolution of their game. The flip side is if you disappoint, and in this NIL portal world that we're now living in, those guys bolt. And generationally speaking, I want to get my shine now. The question is, if you don't get your shine, but again, most coaches will recruit. I like to refer to them as a 12-star quarterback. That's 3 4-star quarterbacks, and you just have a battle for them when they get to camp. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's the blessing. I think we will see an offense, and I'll make my bold prediction. You'll see an offense that will evolve over the second half of the season under Pep. I think they're going to play a little bit more physical, okay? I think because if you look at Pep's track record, they ran the football at Stanford and were punishing people in addition to having a great quarterback like Andrew Luck at that time. But he was driving them. Schematically, they're going to be a fun team to watch. But at the end of the day, are they going to have enough physical players? Because one thing we know about the heavyweights in the league, they got beef. I mean, Nebraska's big and physical. Iowa's big and physical. I mean, it's just so Penn State's massive and physical. Ohio State just mauls and road great people. And then Michigan's, even though Connor Stallions isn't around anymore. Not that we would ever make any fun of anybody, but if we were, Connor Stallions would be one of them. But you don't have to worry about anything like that, right? What I'm saying is I just like the creativity and what they can do. And Locks has coached in enough big games and, being seasoned by Nick Saban at some point, you would think that the Saban touch will rain down.
Osmosis, you would think he would gain some of that through osmosis.
Yeah.
But,
he did his time. He knows what's up. I mean, put it to you like this. Nick Saban has the keys to the test.
Mm.
Okay, and I know they have a healthy respect for one another. I know from people that I hear down in Bama, he encouraged Loxley to take the job at his home city. And one thing about it, let's be clear about a guy like Mike Loxley, because I remember talking to him when I was hosting my show on WOL and before he went to New Mexico or whatever. This guy loves the DMV and wants nothing more than to put a championship team in this area. And if the checkbook is open, and remember, we're in a situation where it's no longer about building teams. I think it's about catching lightning in a bottle. I don't think you coach for next year and you're trying to build a crew. Indiana ended all that. They showed you how dynamic coaching changes, a new energy, right? They came in. Signelli went in there and he was like, I'm kicking ass and taking names and y'all just going to deal with it. And what did he do? He kicked ass, he took names, and he went to the second weekend of the college football playoffs?
Yeah, I believe so,
Indiana?
Yeah.
I'm used to seeing Bobby Knight throwing chairs at officials. Not Indiana playing football in December. Are you kidding me? I mean, my goodness. You could have took me my life savings in the future, the rest of my family, if you'd have told me Indiana is going to the play and was scaring people. Why can't Maryland be that? That's all I'm saying. I think that's my benchmark.
Yeah, another reason I think we can have a good chance is that transfer portal. And if you notice how I believe that the teams will be running more like pro teams, like how you'll get your recruiting class, but then you'll sprinkle in a couple of transfers here and there to help you solidify your team. And again, I talked to Justin Martin, and he said he talked about why he decided to transfer to Maryland, all options he had, why he came to the DMV.
It's an opportunity. Just going into the portal, I didn't really know what to expect, but Maryland made it really clear that, I had an opportunity here to play, and, I didn't take that for granted. I talked to my parents and my family, and, they all backed me on this decision.
So talk about the weather, really. East Coast, West Coast, how's that treating you right now?
It's a little different, but I'm adjusting to it. It's not the 75 and sunny that I'm used to, but I like it out here, and, it's a good football weather.
That's a great look.
Yeah. The kids
I love it.
Yeah,
And see,
he's like
that speaks volumes.
opportunities. All these kids want. So give someone an opportunity. You never know what's going to happen.
And you get an opportunity in a conference like the Big Ten. And in the interest of full disclosure, we grew up when Maryland was in the ACC.
Yes.
And football in the ACC traditionally has been an afterthought. It was that bridge to get you to basketball season, especially on Tobacco Road. But because if you look in that conference, some great players came out of it. Lawrence Taylor, Boomer Esiason. I mean, these guys played in the Super Bowl and were in that league. Heck, Randy White from the Dallas Cowboys was a Maryland guy. So we're used to seeing stud type players in College Park. And now you start looking at Stephon Diggs, Dominique Foxworth before he became a broadcaster. I mean, the list of players out of the area, and it's funny, Maryland's always had a great selection of players in the NFL that were vital contributors to winning squads, yet Maryland's football program is dwarfed by the success of the basketball program. Lacrosse, I mean, let's be clear, a national championship contender every year. You have baseball in the mix right now. So you put everything into the mix right now. This is a very credible opportunity. And then I think like the lifestyle for a lot of kids is going to be something that they embrace here, where you can let yourself go and sort of do your thing without being encumbered by, social norms of a region, if you will. So this is an incredibly important year, in my opinion, for the Maryland program, Chuck. And I say that largely because if you don't get it right now, you may end up having to blow this thing up. And with the heavyweights in the conference that you have, you don't want to end up back at ground zero.
Gotcha. Yeah. And Coach Loxley also talked about the pressure on him when it comes to being, is this not a break year? Here's Coach Loxley, what he had to say about that.
When this landscape happened, I told our fans, I embrace it. This is good for Maryland. This change of landscape gives us a chance to grow the program, because I can tell you that there's some programs that have benefited from being maybe over-resourced that now we all kind of got the same money. Well, let's see who can coach, including myself. And so it's not pressure for me. I made that out of Southeast DC, and I'm the head coach at my dream school. What else? What other pressure can be on me?
Driving at night in Alabama, but we won't get into that. But I roll with locks. I roll with, dude. If you can handle that pressure cooker in Alabama, right? Look, let's be real for a second. There's death, there's taxes, but the most important thing in Alabama is Alabama football. And he was like the number 2 guy on a Saban staff. Hey, that can lead to a lot of winning nights and a lot of sleepless nights. If there's a man to build this program, and I love what he said, this is his dream job. For a lot of kids, this is the dream school that they want to play for. And when you can see a coach speaks with that much passion, a focus in the direction, and Nick Saban on speed dial, come on, man. Come on.
But
it's an embarrassment of riches right now. It's a great time to be a Terp fan, a Terp alum. And I don't mean to sound like I'm, lobbying, but I'm pretty sure contributions to the NIL fund are definitely appreciated. Don't have that, how you got some places got that big oil Texas money or big money of donors in Florida. Maryland's donors can really make a difference in this thing. And you look at even since the time you graduated there, Chuck, the improvements to the campus are just mind-boggling.
Amazing. I noticed, like, we were talking about that before. It's like the expansion of the athletic facilities there near the stadium. It's state of the art, training, weight rooms, conditioning, medical staff. I mean, there's a plug to University of Maryland's medical program, because a lot of their staff comes through there. So you have, in order to compete on the big boy level, you need the big boy things like that in order to compete in the in what you would call the national the college football here championships.
Well, that's the bottom line. You got to get to the tournament now. And it'll be
yeah, just get in. Yeah,
that's it. Get in and shoot your shot. Because you know, I didn't think that I would like the college football playoff format. I don't necessarily like a bunch of guys behind closed doors dictating, you know, how a championship is contested. But when it got to the games week after week in December, you're like, wow, I'm down with that. I'm down with it. And I think that the dilemma that Maryland has always faced is that you're in the heart of basketball county. I mean, let's be real for a second. You look at the rosters of NBA players and where players are from. Mostly they're from this region. Yeah, exactly. You know, not all right. So we've had great football players from this area. You know, Maryland alum Vernon Davis, right? Let's be clear. The face of Under Armour when they launched, Erica Bagu, played with the Dallas Cowboys on the end. So it's not like Maryland hadn't had players. And it's not like they haven't had long and storied careers in the National Football League and beyond. But the time is now. And Maryland could be a player. I think they could be a Cinderella player. But remember, college football is no longer defined by your class and what you've accomplished over 4 years. It's what have you done for me lately. And Coach Spinelli got a 10-year extension in Indiana for turning them into for the Blue Bloods in the league, a problem. For a team like Maryland, that gives them hope. And I do believe if Indiana can do it on the gridiron, so too can the Terps.
All right, now speaking of this athletic program, we had there's been a lot of positives, but there has also been a little bit negative, and we're going to talk a little bit right now because you have a little more insight than I do about this, and that is the former Damian Evans jumping ship to SMU right before this, like right as the tournament's going on. You had the coach Willard going to Villanova, and we have Lightyear Captain Buzz all coming in to take over the team. What do you think about? What are you thinking about the whole idea of Damian Evans jumping ship at the time he did?
I personally had a problem with it. The fact of the matter is, you knew your coach was coming up in his final year, and apparently there was some contention between Willard and Evans that emanated from the dinner that Damon would not let him have after a basketball tournament around Christmas. Now, let's be real for a second. We talking about a team dinner. We ain't talking about a massive expenditure, bro. We talking about a team meal after your kids have sacrificed their holiday to play in a tournament. So I guess the situation was frayed. If I'm looking at it, I'm trying to be as objective as possible, man. But if I'm looking at it in Damon Evans' case, why, as an athletic director who came to Maryland after he had been an assistant athletic director at the University of Georgia? So I'm talking, you go from SEC to Big Ten. All right, lateral move. You go to SMU, which is what? ACC? Really? I don't get it. I don't get that at all. It just doesn't make any sense other than the fact that you go into a school that has big Texas money, right? Top hats full of green. You know what I'm saying? So why would you do that? I mean, we know they've been giving the Pony Express. The program hadn't been the same since they had the death penalty. I mean, do you really think you can get that program in that neck of the woods where you're recruiting against SEC, right, competition? Remember, Texas and Texas A&M are now in the SEC. Maybe he's got a recipe for success that may get him as a Big 12 school into the college football playoffs, maybe Damon Evans is a football athletic director. You know what I'm saying? It drives the program. If we aren't successful in football, then we're not really doing what we're supposed to be. That may be his calling card. But there were some people on the inside, and again, in the interest of full disclosure, I covered the women's super regional and was just sitting in a media area, and I was listening to some of the some of the staff people that worked there that were using terms like cheap. They're taking the media meals away and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if Maryland was operating at a deficit, but I think, but there were a lot of people who liked the job that Damon did in terms of getting back in good stead physically. You know what I'm saying? And balancing budgets and handling the meaningful tasks that go with being an athletic administrator. That being said, you knew your coach was coming up, right? This was the last year of his contract. You didn't go out to meet him and say, okay, when can we get this done and then jet? It played out miserably. I thought Kevin Willard, in retrospect, could have handled the questions with a little bit more tact, but you in the tournament, you're a little wired, you jacked up a little bit. I think the hate Maryland fan is totally and unmitigatedly wrong. He got you to the Sweet 16 for the first time in 9 years. It took him 3 years to do it, but he got you there. And you had a shining moment. You became a destination school because of Derek Queen. And what happens? It goes away. That's why I like Buzz. Buzz had an energy. I thought that if I were grading somebody on a opening speech to galvanize the masses, he A+. You just joined a masterclass. He seems like he's embracing. He doesn't have a track record for staying around a long time, so that the next full-time AD is going to always have to keep his or her head on a swivel to identify young, talented coaching minds that can keep the ship moving. I'm anxious to see who is athletic director, but I will say this. I got to give credit where credit is due. Between Dr. Prynes and his interim athletic director, to land a Buzz Williams 10 days after you find me. And remember, these negotiations were going on while the team was still in the tournament. So all things equal, I will say this. It was a masterful job by the remaining members of the athletic department to handle a super regional in the women's tournament on campus. Make sure that the basketball team had everything, the men's basketball team had everything that they needed on another part of the country. Both those teams advanced to the Sweet 16 amidst this shroud of controversy. That's a hell of a job of keeping it together. And you hope it pays out with dividends for Mike Loxley, and they're able to, make a run at the playoffs. I think it's got to be playoffs or bust right now. I don't think you can call what you want. A bowl game is a reward for who? You know what I'm saying? Who are you rewarding? The kids not getting money. They might get a couple toys. But
they get a gift basket.
Huh?
Gift basket. You get a gift basket.
Yeah,
maybe a PlayStation.
Okay, you get a video games console, some games, and maybe a camcorder. All right, come on.
I'll take
that. Hey, look, nobody remembers who won the Music City Bowl. All right, let's be clear. Nobody knows who's playing in the Pool and Weed Eater Bowl. Okay.
Hey, don't sleep on the Weed Eater Bowl. That's some classic football right there.
Oh yeah. Nothing like the Blue Turf in Boise. Yeah, So look, if and then no more mayonnaise. No more mayonnaise. Okay.
I might do some mustard.
Okay.
No mayo.
If you're gonna have man, why can't we have a Old Bay Bowl? Playing in Baltimore. Old Bay Crab Bowl.
Hey, you better trademark that right now before someone steals that idea, because that is gold, Jerry. Gold.
There it is. See, I'm doing the work of y'all marketing people free of charge. Even though I don't want to see my favorite team playing it. Now, let's be clear. We will welcome the people to the Crab Bowl. Okay? You want to enjoy yourself. We'll have healthy servings of crab soup, crab dip. And my personal favorite, if you're coming to this side of the country from California for homecoming, the crab fries.
Oh, yeah.
The crab fries have taken it to the next level.
My cholesterol can't handle it, but I'll still have one every now and then.
I'm saying, I walk past other sporting events all the time where they have them, and they're just like, no. And
that's a Temu version of crab fries. No, you gotta get the OG, the original. No, that Temu stuff.
Anyway. All
right, we're going to wrap it up here because this has been a great first episode. We got the extra point here. What's next for Voice of College Football in Maryland? What's next for Maryland football? What's next for Maryland athletics as a whole? This school is trying to be a more well-rounded school with more sports. We do, like you said earlier, lacrosse is always good. Soccer is always good. Our baseball teams are always competing. The men's and women's basketball team are always, up there when it comes to the Big Ten standings. Yeah, Maryland football is
Sweet 16.
Maryland football is taking those steps to go up and up and up. We had to compete, and it's going to be hard to compete against your Michigans, your Ohio States, your Penn States. But
Chuck, let me tell you something. That's why you bring Pep in, because you know what it takes to win those big games. Now, the old saying, less about the X's and O's, the Jimmys and Joes. You get the Jimmys and Joes and you got bad X's and O's, you're not going to win too many games. And so I just like where they are right now. So you ask what next? A legitimate run at a spot in the college football playoffs, okay? And that means that if you want to be considered, you have to finish in the top 4 of your league. That's a bold step. So if you want to know an extra point, no worse than 4th place and a legitimate contender for the college football playoff. That's it. I'm not gonna stake, and put down a stake in the sand and say, if they don't do it this year, heads must roll. I at least want to be flirting with it by Thanksgiving. That's what's next.
I feel you. I feel a 8 to 9 win season is a legit expectation for this squad to be in a. If not make the playoffs, a quality second tier bowl like your Peach Bowls, your Cotton Bowls, whatever ones are not in the
Peach Bowl. Point well taken, but those are now national semifinal games.
Oh, you're right. That's why they expand.
So the big picture now is, if you don't make it, where is there a cool bowl to go to that would make it worth your while for your fans to travel with you? Because that's as big a part as getting a bowl invite. That's why I take that out the mix. Hey,
I'm feeling if don't make the playoffs, I'm feeling Music City Bowl because that might be a nice little town to go visit.
I like
food, the atmosphere, the food.
Nashville is one of my favorite towns.
And
it's not
far travel. Yeah, it's not far travel.
Memphis is not bad too if you want to go to the Liberty Bowl.
Liberty Bowl, yeah. So I would say those 2 bowls are my bare minimum of what Maryland should do. Like I said, I wouldn't mind going down to Tennessee. I want some of that barbecue, that Memphis barbecue. Woo!
Memphis barbecue, yes. Cookies, what is it? Corky's or Rendezvous, whichever one. Yeah. You can't go wrong.
Whichever one you get to first. Doing both. You got the whole weekend.
That's
doing
right.
Both. All right. This has been fantastic episode of The Voice of College Football. I am your boy, Charles Young, along here with Professor G. Mark Gray. Stay tuned for more of the best insights into Maryland athletics here on The Voice of College Football. Again, by the way, before I forget, tell them how they can follow you and all your social media, Mark.
Hit me up all over the place in cyberspace at The Sports Groove. All right. And if you're into baseball, there's this thing called MLBBro.com. Check us out.
And you can find me all over social media at Charles Young. That's CharlesNyonga. Also, you can see me on MLBBro.com. Everybody have a great weekend. Enjoy yourselves. Stay out of trouble, or at least don't get caught. And we will see you next time.
Deuces from the DMV.